Hopefully there's not too much wind noise, so I don't have to do this thing multiple times. But there's been some discussion lately about campground choices that I've been dealing with online, and I'm sitting in a. Right now we're sitting in a campground that's nothing really exciting. I'll kind of pan around a little bit. It'll probably be glary and hard to see. It might look kind of nice, but they've moved their price up from about $190 a week to $247.50 a week, which is a big change for effectively an asphalt parking lot with tight spots. I mean, you do not have, the pull-throughs are about 45 foot long. They're 50 amp full hookup pull-throughs, but they're kind of narrow. Once you put the slides out, you have filled the space sideways, and you have to find another place to put your car. If you've got a fifth wheel, you have to find another place to fit the truck. So a lot of people here are taking two spaces. It's called Canocta Vista Casino RV Park in Lakeport, California. Want to do kind of show off the view of the campground. As I was looking at it, you can hear the birds. I know I'm panning a little fast, but you can see that there's not many people here. There was more. It's a Monday. A whole lot of people left. There's our motorhome. You'll notice these campsites are not the greatest. I probably am bouncing the thing too much because I don't have a stabilizer. Notice there's a lot of. Notice we have a picnic table, but the majority of people don't. There's one garbage can. There's others. It's not the greatest place. Yeah, I'm just panning around the motorhome, the campground, to show you that it's not very full. I mean, they raise their rates, but this place does mostly its good job in the summertime. There's the actual casino right there. And the other side of the casino is actually the hotel, which is where you check in. You notice we're taking two spaces, one for us and one for thing, but they're side-by-side hookups. And they've got there's one sewer hookup at the post, there's two power poles and two water at each post. But then you go down here between, and there's the sewer hookup for the other person. So you're actually supposed to somehow park, so you're not side by side, even though you need to be to use sewer, or you run the sewer underneath the rig. So this is not a well thought out campground. And why are we here? Well, we're here because at least we can stay somewhere where we fit with a big rig, 40 foot motorhome, close to some family members. Other choices, and luckily there is actually other choices in the area. Many of them would only fit probably about a 30 foot or less rig very well. There's a state park down the road that you can dry camp, about a 30 foot or less rig. A little past that there's a campground called Edgewater, which some people have stayed at, which has 2 or 3 spots that would fit a large rig, but it's narrow roads. It's mostly what I'd call a fishing camp, so it's for smaller rigs. And there's a couple other similar to that close by. The other big rig campgrounds, there's a Jellystone Park that's out of town. That's normally not even open in the wintertime. Here we are at the start of November, just after Halloween. And it's probably either burned down or underwater because of all the fires. It's often flooded and murky. There's another one in Hidden Valley that's got 30 amp sites on mud. Well, it's on mud this time of year. And right now it's hidden. The campground survived the big fires, but a lot of people are staying in Hidden Valley right now because their houses are gone. And there's a couple more on the north end of Clear Lake that aren't too bad, but it's a long drive from the family. So we're here because of family. And I kind of want to talk that, sometimes you make choices A lot of people want the perfect campground. They want it to be something, they want a huge site with trees, but clear enough so that they can have their solar panels and their satellite dishes working, quiet, with beautiful, great Wi-Fi, and 2 miles from stores, including Walmart and everything else, so that they don't have anywhere. And they want it to all be $20 a month or $20 a night or less. And that's not the reality. There are some pretty nice campgrounds out there that aren't too bad. I mean, some of them are a little bit crazy. I mean, we've been in some pretty good campgrounds that match some of those numbers. And a couple of those that are kind of close, but probably, and maybe on a discount, you could get them for $20 a night or less. But mostly, you have to compromise. You got to compromise in how, if you've got a big rig, you've made that choice. A lot of people say, get the biggest you can, and you'll always be able to stay. And that's true. We've got a 40-footer. And we normally pretty well can find a place to stay. But we can't stay every place that's possible. Somebody with a shorter piece, a nice little, something that's, like a 25 to 30 foot rig can stay, about anywhere they want to. And that's great. They don't have to do anything. They can go anywhere they want to. But you want more space, you're going to limit yourself. And we limit ourselves. The other thing is we've got a rig with a lot of electrical use, including residential refrigerator. We run our computers a lot. We need to run 2 CPAP devices for sleep apnea overnight. It used to be just one, but I've joined the crowd after 10 years after my wife did. So we need a reasonable battery bank. We can go overnight, but we've paid for having enough battery, we've paid for having enough inverter, we've paid for having enough charging capability to do that. Not everybody will pay for those things either. So, you can be away from it all, but you can't always quiet. And we're going to run a generator if we're going to boondoggle. So size matters. We have a washer dryer. We like to run it. My wife is a little bit sensitive to chemicals, so she likes to use our washer dryer and not somebody else's. So she doesn't like using laundromats if she can help it. Better off than her mother, who has to use her own because she finds that otherwise she has all kinds of issues. So washer dryer is actually a requirement in our household, pretty much a requirement in our household. Well, for a lot of people it's not. But because of that, we want sewer if we can help it. We'd like 50 amp if we can help it. We know how to live with 30 amp, but we prefer. These are choices and requirements that come from your own world. A lot of people go to their campground, they set up their barbecue outside, and they don't actually leave for days. They stay put. They're perfectly comfortable, so they'd like to go someplace like a state park or somewhere else where there's a lot of walking trails and such like that, so they can stay close by and feel close to nature. It's nice, but we're normally on the move even when we're on our own and not having family around, so we often stay somewhere where we've got stuff close by. Where we are right now, coming in, we had to pack our refrigerator and all our stuff. We made a Costco stop at the camp, and we packed everything in and brought it to the family who lives here because they are an hour and a half drive from the nearest Costco, and so about every 2 or 3 weeks they on a weekend while they're not at work they go to Costco and maybe do a couple other things and a few other stores at the same time, because the stores here are not that great. I mean, you've got in Lakeport, which is where we are, you've got a Kmart, a grocery outlet, a Bruno's, and a Safeway for grocery stores, a Dollar Tree. And then a couple hardware stores and a few other things. If you want another set of choices, you drive to Clear Lake, which is about a 25-minute drive to the other end of the lake. you can, and there you got a Walmart, a Ray's food place, and another Safeway. Restaurants, there's a few in town, probably 100 in the whole, around maybe 100, 150 total restaurants around the lake, and a lot of those are not necessarily that great. So if you want to do go out or need to get groceries and such, this is not the greatest place in the world. So they need to go to a super Walmart, they drive to Ukiah, it's around 35 to 45 minutes, depending on where you are, to get there. If you want more, you go to Santa Rosa. You want to really go, you go 2 hours to Vacaville, California. That's where you've got everything. And these are choices you make by having jobs that cause you to be living in small towns. And here we are as RVers, visiting family. For some people, if we had a choice of where we could stay, we wouldn't be here. We would be somewhere else. The reason you come to Clear Lake is to go fishing. That's really, the lake is good for bass fishing. This campground, when it fills up with boats, with people with boats, and they're kind of obnoxious, some of them putting their boats wherever they feel like, because the campground is, unless there's a bass fishing tournament, the campground is not full. Other time the campground is full, it's not from people camping, but from events going on at the casino. We're right next to the main casino. And when they have something like a cage fight, which is something we have no interest in, the campground fills up with people parking every hole. If your car is not parked, or your car or truck is not parked when they set up, you will not have a place to park they will park right next to your RV. They will park behind it, they'll park in front of it, they'll park in every little nook and cranny, because there's not a big enough parking lot to hold everybody who comes for a big event here. So it's not the greatest place in the world, and it's $247.50 a week. Which is not cheap. It's actually, for being, a lot of people won't pay that much. But we're close to family, 16 miles to the house, and so we come and stay here. Other choices, people live for membership campgrounds. The membership campgrounds are about an hour and 15 to an hour and a half distance away, and twisty, windy mountain roads. Do you want to do that at 10 o'clock at night? Every day when you're visiting family and you leave and say, hi, we were glad to visit you, now we're going to go home and go to bed. No. So I'm using this as an example of what happens with Campground Choices. Especially when other circumstances come into place, that you have a reason to be close to a city. I see things on the forums all the time about people who get a job in the San Francisco Bay Area and are looking for a place to camp. San Francisco Bay Area is 2 hours south here. It's horrendously expensive, and there's very few campgrounds. And the campgrounds that are there are very expensive because the land they have is so expensive. You can, in the San Francisco Bay Area, you can have $1 million house with 1 bathroom. Now think about a campground. So it's not crazy at all. He's paying $60 a night on a monthly rate to camp. And there's so many places, and some of the campgrounds have actually closed down over the years, because even though they were charging these exorbitant rates, somebody was willing to hand them millions of dollars to buy the land to stick and put something else there. So you can complain, you can cry, you can be all unhappy about it, but the reality is sometimes you have to be somewhere that's not cheap. Another example is while I'm talking, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to go to Austin, Texas, area in the hill country of Texas, where there's been flooding and a whole lot of places are closed down, and they're complaining about the prices of the campgrounds that are still open. They don't want to stay somewhere that's costing $40 or $45 a night. Why are they going to Austin? If their reasons, is it worth their reasons to go to Austin now that they can't stay somewhere more reasonably priced? Or they want it to be a nice place with some big campsites and they feel comfortable. You can't always get what you want. It's nice when you do, and and you can study your crazy to do it. And it's I said, campground choices are important to you. Do you want a swimming pool? Do you want tennis courts? Do you want walking trails? Do you want activities, especially if you're staying long term? Sometimes in the winter spots where they call it snowbird, there's places in Arizona and Florida, Texas and such have a lot of things going on. Others don't. Do you need showers? Do you need nice laundry rooms? Do you need stores and restaurants close by or not? Do you want how do you want life to be? These are choices you're making as a RVer. It's not, it's not going to all be perfect. So if you've got ideas that everything's going to be just wonderful, you're going to be sorely things. People look for free camping. There's probably no free camping close to here because there's just no space to put it. I'm going to have to stop. There's an airplane. Well, I'll try going without sunglasses, but we'll see if I can stand it. Anyway, a little airplane flying over kind of makes it loud, and I know it's hard to hear. It still reminds me of going out flying with my father-in-law, who's no longer with us. And the plane is no longer, it's been sold. So I used to go out with him all the time and take pictures along the Oregon coast and Washington State and everything else. It was really kind of fun. I do miss that. It was fun. Anyway, that's a total aside against the campground choices. But when you get family, jobs, a need to be at an event, these are things that cause you to have to sometimes go to a campground that might not be optimal. And some people just get really unhappy with it. They just get so unhappy that it's not what they want. They grumble, they moan, it's not what they wanted. And my attitude is, you're going to have to be flexible, especially if you're going to be a full-timer. You're going to be out there on the road all the time. You're not going to get everything you want. You're going to have campground choices you don't like. You're going to have breakdowns. You're going to have roads that aren't very good. You're going to be missing some of your favorite ingredients in the stores. You're going to go to a grocery store and you're going to look and look and look, and you're not going to find something you actually want. You might have to make a different choice on what you're going to eat. These are very hard. For some people, some of these things can be actually very hard, and some of them don't even know it's hard. We have some younger friends that we know who went out to travel for a couple of years, and the grocery store issue actually caused them more issues because they really were into part of the way where they relaxed was to kind of make a nice meal. And they were used to being able to find a certain kind of vegetable or certain sauces or kind of things, and they couldn't find these things. They had to do something different. So instead of doing it, they went out. And then when they went out, they spent more money than they were expecting, and it actually caused them to be spending more money than they were expecting. So just perspective. They were young and said, we can't believe. They also thought that they were going to be able to wear shorts every day. And they're sitting in Florida in 25 degrees going, what happened to our shorts in the wintertime? It doesn't happen. The weather is not that consistent. Here we are in California, central California, and it's going to go to 37 degrees tonight. We're going to travel in a few days to somewhere else, and it's supposed to be, and that same place tonight's supposed to be 456. It's just terrain and location can make a difference. And here, we're going to be in Arizona during the winter, and you can be dealing with windy weather, you can be dealing with rainy weather, you can be dealing with all these things. And you have to think about that when you're in campground choice. Sometimes a campground is not always the best thing. Sometimes you get a surprise. There was a big storm in September where we were up in Washington State, and we didn't know it, except for looking on the internet, because we had a ridge line to the south, and the wind and the storm was coming from the south. So we were protected. 5 miles away, there was all kinds of damage and power outages. Where we were, it was like nothing had happened. the ridgeline was protecting that campground. If the wind would have come from the north, it would have been beat up, and we might have sit around grumbling and complaining about that same campground. But where we were happy. I know it's a total aside to our RV choice, but it's the kind of things that happens to you. Anyway, enjoy your day. I'll see how this video comes out. See if I have to clip other clippings in because there was noise or wind, or I didn't like the way I actually sounded when I recorded it. Thanks a bunch. It's November 2nd. That's when I'm recording this, just for fun. I really did want to come out here on Halloween when I was wearing Halloween stuff. But the weather wasn't that, our timing and weather were not. I wanted to talk a little bit about campground expenses and unexpected financial situations. Let me level this thing a little there. Blazing. Anyway, I was talking a little about how much the campground costs. I wanted to tell people to be realistic, be surprised, be ready. If you make your budget so that you can only spend $400 a month on the campground, what are you going to do if where you need to stay or situations, so you average $600? It's just the reality. It might happen. Somebody tells you something, how things are. Don't believe everybody. A lot of people who are trying to be cheap are proud of it. And those who are having a surprise, like they thought they could spend $400 a month, and they found that it was $600 or $700 a month was their average because they wanted to be close to a national park, they wanted to be somewhere else. Something happened that caused it to cost a lot more than they expected. Those are realities. They might have to get off the road if they weren't ready for it financially. But it's the reality. Or what happens when you have an emergency. You're in a place that's at the upper end of your limit, but you're only going to be there a few days, and then you get a phone call. Someone's sick or someone died, and suddenly was about to die, or something else, and one person gets to, if you've got a couple, one person gets to get an airplane and fly off, and the other gets to go down to the office and extend and pay for 2 weeks or a month more than they expected, and you're sitting in an expensive spot. You've got to be ready for these things. You've got to be ready for a breakdown, and breakdowns can be minor, like we just had an event that didn't work, which we could work around, or it could be something like an engine being inoperable, and you have to be ready for the engine to have to be repaired or even replaced. These things happen to people. The reality is that you have to be ready for them. And campground cost is only one piece of the puzzle. How much fuel prices can change, campground costs can change, repair costs can be there. You might have bought more RV than you needed, or that you conned yourself into needing. You said, I need a 43-foot tag axle diesel pusher that we won't fit in anything smaller. And now you just have to camp somewhere that's more expensive. Or you're trying to run a job with an internet, so you have to pay a lot of money for internet access. And it's not always stable. And it limits where you're camping, because it might say that there's good Wi-Fi at a campground, but like where we are here, it's okay Wi-Fi when the campground's not very crowded, but it can bog down for no reason anyone can tell you, and it'll work really nicely, and suddenly it will just not work at all. And that's the realities. Realities are things don't always work. The power's not always stable. You don't always have sewer. The wind can come up and mess you up. You can have to evaluate because of floods. I mean, believe it or not, this has happened to people we know, and it's happened to people lately in Texas, because there was giant floods in Texas and a bunch of people had to evacuate. The entire campground got pretty much washed away in New Braunfels, Texas. It's realities. Thanks.